So many of us love to travel, to explore, to learn, to relax and revive. As the world reopens, we all have an incredible opportunity to change and reset tourism to be more sustainable. TLC Global looks forward to a new tourism approach using the Harmony Golden Ratio, created with the help of the Harmony Institute to reduce our impact when we travel. It's an approach that values the best things in life, yet is mindful of our footprints. Whether flying or driving, or the places we stay, we can know the true cost of our travel by becoming aware of what we need to put back. When you travel, you can be in harmony with nature and protect local culture and heritage by asking yourself or your destination to measure, reduce, offset your impacts on the climate, biodiversity, the environment, and people. Together, we can be more responsible custodians of our world and give it a bit more TLC.
Hello and good afternoon. My name is Jürgen Steinmetz, joining you from breaking news from the Breaking News Show and eTurbo News here in beautiful Honolulu. It's a really bright, sunny day. It's about 82 degrees. It's a little bit on the warm side, and calm winds and really perfect beach weather today. How's everything in College Station, Texas?
Well, it would be perfect beach weather if we had a beach. But we are missing a beach, which is a problem for beach weather. But it's a little cooler today. It's only 99, which is 40 degrees on the Celsius scale. So that's a little bit cooler. We kind of have a cold front right now. It's today and tomorrow and the next 3 days, it'll be just about 99 or 100, which is ironically cold. It's not really cold, but and it's hot, somewhat humid. And if you're smart, you don't walk out in the middle of the day. The old famous saying, only mad dogs and Englishmen are out in the noonday sun, may not be true for the Englishmen, but it may be true for people in the center of the United States in places like Texas. It's not very smart to be walking when it's this hot outside and the sun is that bright.
And it's, of course, it's important to drink water during days of heat. We're lucky here in Hawaii because the temperature doesn't fluctuate very much. It's about the same all year around here, but we don't really get 100 degrees temperature. So that's...
Yes, I know. Hawaii really, that's one area where Hawaii really is outstanding. Of course, the problem is getting to Hawaii is not so easy right now because of the airline industry and all the problems that are taking place with hundreds of flights being canceled, prices going to the roof. And this is not only a problem in the United States, it's also a problem in Europe and other parts of the world. And there are a lot of reasons for this. One is that governments insisted that if you were not COVID vaccinated, you could not work as an air controller. And so there's now a dearth of air controllers, and there's a dearth of pilots, and there's a dearth of plane crews. So that it's not that they don't have the planes, they don't have the people to fly the planes.
And it's not only not the people to fly the planes, of course, that's the most important part, but airports have real issues with catering. We did a story not too long ago on LSG in San Francisco, where they couldn't get the water and the beer coming in from Europe. And they didn't, of course, want to buy local beer and local water. So people flew across the Atlantic without any water. And but it's even worse when you see how it is in Europe. There are literally none of the flights that are supposed to have foods. In business class, you get a banana now. People cannot catch up. There is a real shortage of staff. And I see it every day here when I go to restaurants. The restaurants appears to be empty. There's a long line outside, and I said, "So why? What's the problem? Why can't we sit down?" He said, "We don't have enough waiters."
Yeah, yeah. That and part of that is actually a recurring from two parts from COVID. Part of it is because people were told if you had to have a certain number of vaccinations in order to be able to continue working, and a lot of people didn't. And then the other side of that is the government was giving out lots of free money, and a lot of people said, you know what, I can make more money staying at home, and I'm not paying taxes on it than if I'm going to work, and I'm paying taxes on it. So we have a huge exodus of people from work. They don't want to work, and therefore, wherever you go, certainly in much of the United States, it's employees seeking employees, employees needed, please apply for a job. But that really impacts tourism because tourism is such a dependent industry when it comes to employment, and it's a service industry. And if you don't have people to give service, you don't have an industry.
And this is a real issue. Then, of course, we have immigration restrictions. So even though people are hungry in countries like the Philippines, where the service industry is big on anyone's mind, and there's plenty of people who would love to live in the United States, they cannot come here because of visa restrictions, and we don't have enough people.
Well, they can as long as they cross illegally the border from Mexico.
Yeah, but not everyone wants to do
Yes,
that.
but we have right now 186 countries having crossed the border. We have this year will be over 2 million illegal immigrants. And right now we have a caravan with 16,000 illegal immigrants going through Mexico. So you might not be able to fly into the United States with a legal visa, but as long as you're prepared to be illegal, you don't have a problem because this current government will provide you with everything you need. So it's
But you don't get the job you wanted, and let's
Yes,
keep it on the up and up. And most people don't want to come here or anywhere illegal. That is a
Well, actually, that's really, the data isn't correct on that. First of all, the hotel industry has huge amounts of illegal people working in it. A matter of fact, one of the reasons that you have so many security issues in that hotel industry is that people take advantage of people working in the hotel industry, especially women, and they say, "Okay, you're here illegally. Let's go to the cops." So what you have now is an underclass of slavery. You have men being turned into slaves, women being turned into sexual slaves, and of course, we now have children being slaves. In fact, slavery is as high as it's been since the Middle Ages.
Yeah, that is definitely something what is alarming, and you're absolutely right. This is a global problem. Human trafficking always has been a problem, and specifically after a crisis like this, it becomes even more as a problem. And if people think we're immune here in the US or in the UK
Wow.
or in the European Union, we're not.
Right.
And that is shameful because it not only
Slavery is a very major issue. And you would like to think that it went away hundreds of years ago. And this is something that comes from primitive times. No way, no way. And if you look at the cartels coming across the border in the United States, the normal charge now is $8,000 to $10,000, and they brand the people so that they can go after them. So they can't provide all the money. They go after them once they're in the United States, and they garner their wages. So this is an industry that has got to be really thought through. The open borders on the southern part of the United States has become a true disaster. And of course, if you look, Latin Americans are furious because what's done is that it's depriving them of their own workforces. And we're not only hurting Americans who are now earning less money, but we're hurting Latin Americans also. So there's a real issue here that has to be looked through. And the tourism industry is very much involved in this because you have illegals working in restaurants, you have illegal people working in hotels. You don't have them working in airlines, you're correct on that. But on many of the other services, and certainly in the whole prostitution industry, which I hate to point out, which is both male and female, this is a huge industry. The sex industry is a huge industry, unfortunately. And the tourism industry has got to think through how are we aiding in that awful industry.
Yeah, and of course, every place in the world is different. If you look in at Europe again, you may not have that many people illegally trying to come into the European Union, but you have the refugees. We don't really work with the refugees. I mean, there's only a fraction of the refugees coming to this country here in the United States,
Yes,
and they're all going Europe, so they are legal in a way, but they're unexpected. Let's put it this way. So
yeah,
this
they're unexpected. That's true. And
people,
of course, there's a lot of resentment in Europe about some of the refugees, because some of the Europeans will argue that refugees are getting more money or more benefits than the local citizens. I was in Switzerland, and the Swiss police were telling me that if a refugee wants to work, he or she will lose all of his or her benefits, and they're making up to 3,000 euro a month plus paid vacations, and so they can't get a job because they're going to take a pay cut to work.
yes. And it's the same situation in not only in Switzerland, I can tell you. And so the system isn't perfect. Every country has its
Oh, it's not
share,
for.
and
I
there
was thinking I'd like to be a refugee in Europe, and you get free housing. You even they even pay for your television. So I'm thinking,
yeah, but I don't want to be bored. I love to work. I love my job.
yeah.
But you
Well, I
can
wonder if you. I wonder if you're a refugee, if you can volunteer. In other words, as long as you don't get paid.
well, there's a lot more going on in this world, and of course
Yeah.
that is a major issue. And you're right in the part of tourism, parts of so many flights getting canceled all across the world these days because of not enough people to work in this industry. But also becomes a safety concern, doesn't
Yes,
it?
it is.
In a way?
Yes, it is a big safety concern. And a matter of fact, I believe now a number of nations yesterday suggested that airlines, rather than postponing or delaying flights, just cancel the entire flight. In other words, just say, we're no longer going to fly from point A to point B. It's the flight's gone. And I know that's happened here in College Station. We had a flight, we had 4 flights a day originally between College Station and Houston. And then it became 2 flights a day. And now it's no flights a day. And not only did those people lose their jobs, but where before I could just go to the College Station airport, fly to Houston, and then go on to wherever I wanted to go, I now have to drive to Houston. And when you're coming back from Europe or someplace else, that's very tiring. Very often I have to spend the night in a motel because I don't want to fly. I don't want to drive the 100 miles after I've flown all night. So
And
the
Peter, there
flight
are so
cancellations,
many, there are exceptions. I'm always amazed when I look at Turkish Airlines, for example. Every day we're getting press releases, Turkish Airlines expanding. It now has by far the largest international network of any carrier. Believe it or not, they added a second airport in Montenegro. Montenegro is the size of probably College Station and a greater College Station, let's put it this way. It's very small. And Turkish Airlines flies nonstop from Istanbul every day into the capital city and into another city, what is like 50 miles away from there. And so there are airlines, they are expanding, they find the crew, but I guess that is a national.
well, and I think also probably your options in Turkey are much less. Um, and so, and the Turkish government may not be quite as willing to allow you the freedom to not work that some of the Western governments do. So there may be some real social and political reasons. Turkey has some political issues, to say the least, and that may be a reason. It may also be Turkish Airlines is really one of the stars of Turkey, just like Qatar Airlines. Qatar as a country doesn't have much, but boy, do they have a great airline. And
It's the
many
same
people
with
think,
Emirates for Dubai. So they do it in Singapore Airlines for many years for Singapore and Asia. There are a lot of excellent airlines that do excellent business and expanding in business. So the
Right.
situation we have in the United States and in Europe is different. Maybe we're struggling while others are expanding. I understand China has huge problems in getting enough pilots to fly uh, in China, so they have the same problem or even worse than what we have here. So every country is different, but it looks like really the 3 or 4 major carriers that are known for transit travel. So it's not like people going specifically to Turkey, Qatar or Doha or Dubai or Abu Dhabi. These carriers, Turkish Airlines, Etihad, Emirates, and Qatar Airways, are doing excellent, and they're expanding every day.
I think though they're the great exceptions to the rule. Um, and they may all be have government sponsorship. I don't know that, but I would not be shocked if they don't. Um, the American and European airlines and the Latin American airlines are all businesses. They have to show profit. I would guess that the 4 airlines you mentioned may not have to show quite the same profit because they may have government subsidies.
Well, but Turkish Airlines, again, I'm not after Turkey, I'm just getting a lot of their press releases, claimed they have a record profit. Even now after COVID, when everyone is still hurting, Turkish Airlines is doing fantastic. They had the highest profit ever made.
I would want to see also what their tax structure is, and I'd want to see how much they're paying their employees.
Yes,
And,
of course.
do they have a union? I mean, one of the problems in Europe and the United States is that most of these people are unionized,
Right.
and you know, and of course the positive side of this is that they're getting a very much of a living wage and a decent wage. On the negative side, it costs the corporation a lot of money. I wonder, and I don't know that, but I wonder if Turkish Airlines employees have the same benefits that United or American or Delta or Lufthansa or British Air have, or do they have much less benefits? I know that I've been on Lufthansa, and their employees are very much regulated by union regulations.
Yes.
I had an eye problem a few years ago, and I couldn't lift above my head. And I asked the flight attendant if he would put it in the overhead for me. And this was a big, strong guy. I mean, he wasn't, he had lots of muscles, etc. He could have lifted this with his pinky. And he looked at me and said, "I'm really sorry, sir, but the union regulations do not allow me to lift anything for a passenger." And I had to have 2 ladies who were next to me. "They will help you, sir." So, and I don't think he was trying to be mean. I think those probably were union regulations. They may not exist on Turkish Airlines.
Yeah, and I mean, we're talking about Lufthansa, and Lufthansa is the Lufthansa Group. It's not only Lufthansa, it's Swiss Air, it's Austrian Airlines, and Sabina or Air Brussels, I think it's called now. And also there are 2 other carriers that are part of this Lufthansa group, but they're independent. And the way Lufthansa is getting around the union is when you work for Lufthansa, yes, you're part of the union, you have all these extra restrictions and rights, and you get more money. But then there are other carriers that are flying for Lufthansa, basically, and always used to be part of their itinerary. Now they claim they're independent. They're really not independent, and people who work there are not unionized. They get less money for doing the same job. And you as a passenger have no choice because there are certain routes Lufthansa is flying,
Yes.
routes
Yeah.
the airline is flying. So when you fly on the other airlines, you pay for all your food. You cannot use the lounges, even though you get your Star Alliance credit and you check in with Lufthansa. So it's airlines are trying to get around these.
And I discovered these alliances are not quite, they talk about seamless travel. They're not, I mean, you will get points. I understand that. But I was recently on, one Star Alliance versus another Star Alliance, and they don't recognize each other's seatings, and their computers aren't compatible. And the argument that this is seamless travel between 16 airlines just isn't true. It means you get points. That's what it gets. And they don't even recognize, I'm 1K SRU on United, and I'll say, okay, 1K on United has certain benefits. And they'll say, that's true, go on United. But if you're on another Star Alliance, you get a free extra back, which I don't need, but there it is. So I think that's a real issue in airlines. And I think the other issue that we're going to see, and we have to really think a lot about this in the tourism industry, and that is the issue of the main economic problems that we're seeing more and more. And the United States, which is really the American stock market impacts the world stock market. We're definitely now in a bear market. We've had 3 major drops of over 500 points a day. Today wasn't too bad, it was only 200, but that's 500, 500, 500, 200. So it's the cumulative effect. I saw an article today in CNN and another article in the New York Times advising people to keep 5 years worth of cash so that they don't have to sell any of their stock, and saying if you can postpone travel, if you can postpone other non-necessity items with inflation, which is not running, the government says 8%, but it's really 18% if we're lucky. With high inflation, California is now up to $8 a gallon, and I don't know what it is in Hawaii, but it's probably, you guys will get up there too soon. And that means airline fuel is going to go up, diesel fuel is going to go up. You know what? People are going to need that money for basic essentials before they get on a plane. So that's going to be a big issue for the tourism industry.
Yeah, and maybe the airline industry is hoping for this because right now they cannot handle the demand for passengers. So we see where this goes, and the world isn't all that peaceful and organized with the ongoing war in Ukraine. And so
which is not ending so quickly. And of course, now the big fear is this is the time when the grains should be leaving the Ukrainian ports, and they're not. And therefore, they're talking about major issues. And the Ukraine is kind of the breadbasket of Europe. And if Ukraine cannot export its wheat and other products, that's going to be a big issue when it comes to food. And then to add to that, the United States has made recently a very stupid decision to add more ethanol to gas. Not only does that ruin car engines, it does nothing to hurt, it's to help the environment. And we're now burning our one food source. So when corn becomes more expensive, beef becomes more expensive, poultry becomes more expensive, lots of meats become more expensive. And that's, so the US government's decision to put more ethanol into gas is going to really impact the world's economy, and especially the poor are going to suffer terribly from it.
Well, we don't know where it is. Now, when it comes to travel today, Israel issued travel warnings against Turkey. So what's the background on this one? You always know when it comes to Israel, I guess.
Well, the issue is that Iran has said that it might, Israel and Turkey are working together, which is good news. Iran has threatened to kidnap tourists, and Israel has said that there may be some real issues of safety for not only Israeli tourists, but other tourists in Turkey. And so we don't know what's going on in the real background between, we do know that Israel and Turkey are working together. The Turks claim that they've stopped 2 or 3 Iranian plots to try to kidnap tourists. And of course, this would also deal with the whole nuclear power struggle that's going on, the fact that President Biden is going to Saudi Arabia and Israel in July, and of course the lack of energy, and the fact that the people pushing the Green New Deal have now caused major fuel crises without any substitutes other than saying transition or suffer. And so governments are really caught in a situation, and some of the rogue countries like North Korea and Iran, this is really to their advantage. And Turkey has woken up to this and now realizes that a lot of the people who are pushing for green energy, etc., are really doing more harm than good because they don't have substitutes. They just talk about it. Most people don't realize how much energy it takes to run a windmill, how much energy it takes to, solar doesn't take that much energy, but it's highly independent. The one country that's really doing well with energy is France. And the reason France is doing well is because they use nuclear. You compare Germany to France, we're more or less sort of the same size, you know, within comparative levels. France is doing much better than Germany. Germany got rid of its nuclear power, and France went to nuclear power. And nuclear power is the one form of clean energy that maybe we need to go back to think about again. Did extremely well in the earthquakes in Japan. Um, and that's something the tourism industry is also going to think through. If we don't have reliable energy, everything else is going to collapse.
And of course, the situation is very fluent. It changes every day. And there are natural disasters coming in between, disturbing whatever trend we're in. And now there's a political disaster, what's a war, what was unexpected. And of course, all these plans that have been made are kind of becoming very fragile or even impossible.
And that war is not going to end. It does not appear at this moment. Now, tomorrow we might be realize what a stupid statement we just made. But as of today, it looks like that war is going to go on not only to the end of this year, it may go on to the end of 2023. So it's going to be
very unfortunate. And I agree with you. This is far from being over. And we have to watch it because it still has the potential of becoming a global threat.
Yes, and even if it's not, I mean, just the fact that probably by the end of this year, Odessa may be destroyed. And Odessa was really one of the pearls of the Black Sea. And these are places you can never get back again once they're destroyed. I mean, you can build new buildings, but you've lost all the antiquity and the beauty and the art of 17th century or 16th century or 18th century buildings. And instead you get steel and glass monstrosities. So I think a good example of that is Rotterdam in Holland, which, you know, was basically leveled by the Germans in World War II. And it's been rebuilt, but it certainly has no charm. It's a highly functional city, but it's not a charming city.
Yeah, and Odessa, of course, our thoughts go out with Ivan Liptuka,
Yes.
who has been a contributor for our publication, who is involved in the World Tourism Network and is the co-founder of our Scream campaign. He is, for those that know him, is in Odessa. Him and his son are defending Odessa, and his wife is cooking for hundreds of soldiers every day. So these people are amazing how they stay in and they don't leave, and they're firm and they believe in defending.
But so many have been now dead. So
Yes.
many have been killed. So many, you know, we see the stories of resistance, and we have to have great pride in those people. But, you know, we're not looking at the number of wounded, the number of dead, and the terrible price that's being paid, one by Ukraine, two maybe by Russia, and because so many of their soldiers have died, and three by humanity, because in a sense, when you have a war like this, it makes us all a little bit less human.
Yeah, and it's not, and unfortunately, it's so easy to say it's the Ukrainian, it's the Russians. I can tell you, I have friends on both sides of the camp, and I love both of my friends from wherever they are. And it's not the people. And I know that Russians and Ukrainians are still friends. They're still talking. Obviously not the soldiers that are coming in and destroying their thing, but there is so much connection between these two countries. It's such a shame that this is happening. And we just wish them the best, and we hope the situation can be.
Of course, a lot of the fighting is now where you don't see the people. You just shoot a missile from far away, or you drop all sorts of bombs, and you have no relationship to the people you're killing. So it's a very, very tragic situation. The world is in a very rough position. Hopefully there will not be a war in Asia, but we don't know. If China is not going to take advantage of this chaos and invade Taiwan, which would add a whole new wrinkle.
Yeah, let's not even speculate on this one. We just hope this world, because peace and tourism goes together, as we always believe, and it's an important factor for tourism to function is peace.
Yes,
and tourism can
help. About peace, because when you might want to end over the weekend. I'm going to be in Cancun, in Mexico, working with the government of Cancun and with many of their entrepreneurs. And Cancun is really looking for a rebirth. And one of the things they understand is they will not have good tourism if they don't have good tourism security. So I'm going to be working with Cancun in developing a new center to take care of tourists, a center of good training for the Cancun police, so that they have some idea about tourism security and making sure that when visitors come to Cancun, the only thing they have to worry about is maybe getting a sunburn. And that's on the tourist. But I'm really very proud that Cancun is now looking at ways to assure that when people come there, they're going to be safe. And that's part of the whole rebirth of Mexican tourism.
Yeah, and to be honest, I mean, there is really no choice because Cancun is a great destination. I've been there. I've attended the WTTC conference last year, and it's living and it's breathing tourism. And without security, this industry will be dead. And people are going to be out of jobs. Businesses are going to close. So they really don't have a choice. So it's I'm glad.
We see an example of that in Mexico, in Acapulco, where Acapulco has basically done nothing for their security, or very little. And other than people from Mexico City who spend long weekends in Acapulco, the city's tourism has died and the economy has collapsed, and you have tremendous poverty. So I think Cancun has learned that important lesson, and is not going to allow the Acapulco factor to impact them in Cancun. And good for Cancun.
Well, Peter, I think we covered the world.
Yes, we did.
So, and I hope this week the stock market will recover. I know you got a lot invested there.
Well, we all do, and you know, in the tourism industry is very dependent on the stock market, and it's dependent. And the last thing the world needs is for the United States to go into a recession, because that will hurt everybody. And as you probably know, the other part that's going to be interesting is the Federal Reserve, which is the Bank of the United States, is meeting tomorrow, and they're talking about a 0.75 increase in interest rates. And that means that housing is going to become more expensive. Everything will become more expensive in the United States starting tomorrow. And that's going to fuel inflation. And inflation is a killer for tourism.
Right. Well, the news really hasn't been that great.
No.
The last few years. I mean, the encouraging part is that tourism is coming back. Besides everything, and just we have to just see how resilient tourism can be. And I know a lot of people have been working for resilience, and let's see how successful this is. But Peter, nice having you on this show again. It's your and my show.
And
so
nice having you on the show again also.
Yes.
And take care and stay cool.
Yeah, and anyone who wanted to be part of the show and see if we can include you with an interview, we now have a website where you can apply for this. Just go to breakingnewseditor.com/invitation, breakingnewseditor.com/invitation. When you fill this out, keep in mind, it's not an automatic guarantee. We're just going to look through this and make sure that your contribution is in line of what we're doing, and also would be interesting for our listeners. But you can easily do this and give us more details what you wanted to say and how you want to be part of our show. Anyone who wanted to look at events in the past, just go to breakingnewsshow.com or to our YouTube channel. And thank you again, Peter, and have a good evening.
All right, take care. As they say in Hawaii, mahalo.
Mahalo and aloha.
Bye-bye.
We know how businesses grapple to find a genuine environmental solution that talks to both stakeholders and customers alike. Travel has developed a financial model. It places a monetary value on what it takes for a business to pivot from a negative to positive impact on people, planet, and prosperity. An internationally verified model, we measure, analyse, and provide a roadmap for business change. We then communicate these initiatives and positive change to your stakeholders and customers. Organisations that deploy greater ESG initiatives and communicate it gain more customers and more profit. 21% to be exact. Music to your stakeholders' ears. Measure, mitigate, communicate, profit. Travwell.